Well, hello there, friend. Welcome back to the Construction Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Bradley Hartmann. Now, as you may know, our tagline on this show is, "You are owed nothing. Deliver value first." I'm very proud of my new book. It's called The Air Raid Sales Offense, the playbook. Fearless, optimistic, simple, and fun for scoring new sales anywhere at any time. And if you are interested in sales, if you are interested in football, if you are interested in money or storytelling, you, my friend, will enjoy this book. It's a story of innovation, changing habits, and changing hearts and minds. It's about a guy named Hal Mumme who changed the game of football at every single level. And the story in which he did it is fascinating. So if you go to airraidSalesOffense.com, airraidSalesOffense.com, you can download the first 4 chapters. And here you will listen to the first 2 chapters of the audiobook. And as always, thank you for listening. Prologue. In the fall of 2017, Empire of the Summer Moon found its way to me. It's a book by S.C. Gwynne, and it gripped me by the throat like one of the Comanche warriors within its pages. I hid from my family over the weekend, and not only did I read it cover to cover, but when I finished, I had one overwhelming thought. What else has this Gwynne guy written? A bit of research revealed he had published a new book, The Perfect Pass, American Genius and the Reinvention of Football. As a former Division I college quarterback, this was something I needed. "I'll be back in 9 hours," I yelled to my wife as I sprinted out the door and headed to Barnes & Noble. I spied the book from 10 yards out. Its cover showed green grass, a vertical first down line, and a wideout sprinting off the cover, a deep ball descending into his outstretched hands. They say don't judge a book by its cover, but come on. This book smelled like football. I squatted down in the aisle and started reading right there. Didn't even bother to buy it until I finished the darn thing. I had no shame. I recognized the name Hal Mumme. For years, rumors had drifted across the cornfield between Mount Pleasant, Iowa, and my hometown in suburban Chicago. Some itty-bitty college out there was known for throwing the ball 100 times a game, and Hal was the coach who allowed it to happen. Before my father, brother, and I could ever schedule the 3.5-hour trip to witness such a thing, if true at all, the gonzo coach was gone. By the time I lined up behind center for the first time as a freshman in high school, Hal was in Valdosta, Georgia. 4 years later, when University of Kentucky quarterback Tim Couch got Coach Hal, I got Coach Spoo. Bob Spoo. Wonderful name, even better man. Coach Spoo was the head coach at Eastern Illinois University. When I stepped onto the Charleston campus for the first time, I was the 5th-string quarterback. They didn't share that tidbit of information with me before I signed. Some guy named Sean Payton held nearly all the EIU passing records. Our starting quarterback that fall was Mike Simpson. He set and still holds the all-division, all-time, single-season record for passing efficiency with a rating of 225.0. In 2023, LSU's Jaden Daniels set the FBS Division 1A record for passing efficiency with a 208.0 rating. Over the next 18 months, I worked and lucked my way into QB2 status on the depth chart. On Saturday, October 18th, 1997, we were beating Middle Tennessee State by 2 touchdowns when I got the nod. Put the clipboard down, take command of the huddle, and don't F it up. Those words of inspiration preceded my first collegiate snaps. I made consecutive handoffs. Like most schools at the time not led by Hal Mumme, our offense passed the ball only 30% of the time. Hal flipped that percentage, passing on 70% of downs. He was every QB's dream. But now, I was facing 3rd and long. My first collegiate pass was about to happen. This is where my journey to the NFL would begin. I dropped back to pass and saw the middle of the field part like Moses as two linebackers blitzed. I fired the pass in the space they vacated as our running back cut open. It was not the perfect pass. Incomplete. I fell under the weight of the two linebackers on my back. Thrusting out my twig-like arm to break my fall, my wrist snapped. Season over. A few weeks later, I hosted a recruit from Wisconsin. His name was Tony Romo. He came, I left. Romo proceeded to break all Sean Payton's passing records on his way to winning the Walter Payton Award, the Heisman Trophy of Division I AA. Sean Payton, by then, was the offensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys. He signed his fellow alum, and Romo's NFL journey began. A decade later, QB phenom Jimmy Garoppolo dominated at EIU, and all of a sudden, being a former Eastern Illinois quarterback impressed people. With therapy, alcohol, and fantasy football, I managed to move beyond my resentment of Tony Romo. By 2017, I was coaching sales teams on how to sell in a way that made it easier for buyers to buy. The work was competitive, and in sales, there's always a scoreboard flashing bright. Always hunting for new ideas and better stories that resonated with my clients, I inhaled the perfect pass. It was the perfect book. Sure, it's about football, I kept thinking as I lay there on my back, blocking the aisle all day in the Barnes & Noble, but this is a sales book. The philosophy behind the air raid offense developed by Hal Mumme, a guide to make football fearless, optimistic, simplistic, and fun, could be applied to sales teams as well. That's what this book aims to do. Whether you're a former QB2 yourself or a current sales leader, keep attacking, because you really can score from anywhere at any time. Bradley Hartmann, September 30th, 2024, Flower Mound, Texas. Chapter 1. Only 3 things can happen when you pass. B, reset, I, left wing, U, flex, FB, right, HB, Q8, crunch, right, flex, Y, counterbone, DQ, F, boundary, I, right, west, squeeze, new, left, toss, 9-9, bus, 6, check, Frisco, halfback, check, slow, screen, right, dynamite, FB, follow, on, ducks. Actual play call from an NFL huddle. The first football game was held on Saturday, November 6th, 1869. Rutgers University hosted the College of New Jersey, Princeton. Final score, Rutgers 6, the College of New Jersey 4. There were no pass attempts. Over the next 125 years, neither Rutgers, Princeton, nor any other football team in America, at any level of the sport, would veer from their aversion to passing the football. The game was played in the trenches, evoking images of World War I because that was so much fun for everyone involved. 22 men, 11 per side, lined up across from one another. Teammates' knees and shoulders jammed up against one another. Like bighorn sheep, these men vaulted forward, ramming headlong into one another with as much speed as they could muster. Bodies thudded. Players cried out in pain on every play. To avoid such hostilities, teams could, in theory, spread the field and throw the football. That was legal, not that you'd know it from watching the game. Wayne Woody Hayes, the legendary Ohio State coach who won 5 national championships, voiced the opinion of coaches everywhere when he observed, only 3 things can happen when you pass, and 2 of them are bad. An interception was a disaster. An incompletion, a mini failure. A completed pass, meanwhile, wasn't a triumph, it was an exhale of relief. Football coaches would more readily agree to wear poodle skirts and saddle shoes on the sidelines than lead a pass-first offense. Walter Camp, the father of American football, declared that passing would sissify the game. Yet every few decades, some wild man would appear with fantastical notions of doing just that, passing the football. Glenn Pop Warner coupled two crazy ideas in the early 1900s. He was going to coach a team of Native Americans at the Carlisle Indian Industrial School to pass the football. It worked. In 1903, the Indians beat traditional powers Penn, Princeton, and Harvard on their way to a 10-1 record. The Indians averaged more than 24 points per game that season, a staggering sum for the era. A quarter century later, a coach so good he earned two nicknames, Leo Dutch Meyer, the Saturday Fox, arrived in Fort Worth to coach his alma mater, Texas Christian University. Meyer allowed his quarterback, Sam Baugh, he hated Sammy, to throw the ball so much, 15 to 20 times per game, other teams threatened to drop TCU from their schedule. This wouldn't be the last time conference opponents refused to play passing teams on their schedule. TCU won 29 games over 3 seasons with Baugh slinging the ball all over the field. Then Dutch Meyer left, and his replacement reverted to running the ball nearly every down. 2 decades later, there was Norm Van Brocklin of the Los Angeles Rams. He threw for more than 20,000 yards during the 1950s, 3 times the league average. On opening day in 1951, Van Brocklin embarrassed the New York Yanks by completing 27 of 41 passes for 554 yards and 5 touchdowns. That set the record for most passing yards in a single NFL game. 73 years later, it still stands. Like Roman candles on the 4th of July, however, these dazzling, pass-first offensive explosions petered out as fast as they blazed up. These were the exceptions that proved the rule. 3 yards and a cloud of dust, as Woody Hayes preached. That was how the game of football should be played. Then came along Hal Mumme, a Texas renegade. If Pop Warner could teach the forward pass to Native Americans who spoke an entirely different language, Hal mused, why can't I teach it to my team? Hal was one of the few football coaches on the planet thinking like this. Here's a pop quiz for you then. In 1985, there were 12,229 high school teams, 620 college teams, and 36 professional teams for a total of 12,885. How many passed the football more than they ran it? Answer, 19 teams, or 0.147%. Mumme made 2 simple observations. 1, the football field is 1.1 acres in size. 2, 3 yards and a cloud of dust yields a punt on 4th and 1, and the risk of respiratory disease. Hal despised punting. He'd tolerate respiratory ailments only if accompanied by a biased, pass-first offense like his team ran at New Mexico Military Institute. Mumme was a wide receiver there. Coach used to walk up and down the sidelines in a trench coat, one of those 1950-ish looking hats on, smoking cigarettes. He'd scream at our offensive coordinator if he called a run play. It was the most fun I ever had playing. Fun. This was at the core of Hal's revolutionary idea. Football, which is, in fact, a game, should be fun. But football wasn't supposed to be fun. Paul Bear Bryant is idolized for developing toughness in his Junction Boys. In 100-degree Texas heat, he ran 4-hour practices with no water. When tackle Billy Schroeder proved he wasn't man enough, he collapsed in dehydration and began turning blue. Bryant kicked the player's body and told the offense to move up 10 yards and run the play again. In football, coaches believed pain and puke were weakness leaving the body. Passing? Well, there was another P word for people like Hal who wished to do that. Hal ignored football's dogma. When an idea captured him, he was as stubborn as a feral hog. Hal Mumme would coach anywhere, would do anything to build his offense of the future. Not only would Hal implement a fearless, pass-first offense built on fun, where morale would be more important than discipline, but the whole system, the air raid offense, would be simple, too. It would be easy to teach, easy to learn, and easy to execute. With the benefit of hindsight, we can now say one thing: it worked. Hal Mumme revolutionized the game of football. The game you watch today in high school, college, and yes, even in the NFL, is what Hal envisioned more than 45 years ago. Chapter 2. Second prize is a set of steak knives. In 1920, Norval A. Hawkins published The Selling Process, a handbook of salesmanship principles. In it, he wrote, "Nearly a quarter century of experience has taught me that at least 75% of success in salesmanship lies in the development of the man himself. Truly, therefore, man is the most important syllable in salesmanship. In sales, as in football, it's all about how we develop the man." And yes, ladies, you should listen to this statement as if it's dripping with sarcasm. Like nearly every other aspect of life beyond childbirth, it took way too long to integrate women's talents into sales. And football, for that matter. Over the last 125 years, salesmanship, how men and women are made in sales, has been defined by its own blood and guts, battle in the trenches, 3 yards in a cloud of dust mindset. Cold calling, constant rejection, 150 calls per day quotas, ABC, always be closing, full commission compensation, unsolicited door-to-door selling, pushy, dishonest, and manipulative men, used car salesperson, high-pressure tactics, CRM-mandated data entry and accumulation, the intentional interruption of strangers at scale. That list is a two-way funhouse mirror from hell. It not only reveals why most people don't want to sell, it's also why most people don't like to be sold. Hell, it's why we love to hate salespeople. None more so than the BMW driving Blake, here from downtown, from Mitch and Murray, played by Alec Baldwin in the classic sales film Glengarry Glen Ross.
Because we're adding a little something to this month's sales contest. As you all know, first prize is a Cadillac Eldorado. Anybody want to see second prize? Second prize is a set of steak knives. Third prize is you're fired. And you can't play in the man's game, you can't close them, then go home and tell your wife your troubles. Because only one thing counts in this life. Get them to sign on the line which is dotted.
This scene is legendary because it thrusts a vindictive thumb into the open wound of the human psyche. This is how salespeople think, speak, and act. I knew it. It's the assumption, well earned, given all the shady schmucks slinging stuff, that the salesperson cares more about making the sale than helping the customer. It's why millions of people each year buy cars and homes, the biggest purchases of their lives, online, without any direct verbal communication. The instant mental calculation most buyers make sounds like this. Could I be better educated by going into the dealership? Yes. Would I save a few bucks by negotiating with the quote-unquote new home sales consultant? Probably. But will I? No way. Rather do it all online and avoid any awkwardness and tension and pressure and stress and the inevitable. Sit tight. Let me talk to my manager and see what we can do for you. I'll be right back. Nope, not interested. This is life from the buyer's perspective. But here's the most maddening thing of all. Sellers dislike the traditional win-lose nature of sales too. That's right. The vast majority of salespeople don't want to spend their lives making other people feel awkward and stressed. If true, then why do salespeople act that way? Because they haven't been trained to do it any other way. This is simply the offensive playbook they've been given. Just as traditional football coaches chose to play the game in the most painful, unimaginative way possible, traditional sales coaches have done the same thing. We're going to run this month-end sales push down the client's throat. So put your head down and hammer away on our value proposition and don't take no for an answer. Keep them knees a-pumping and maul anyone who gets in the way of your prospect signing on the line which is dotted. That's how you attack. You got that? That's how things work around here, so don't overthink it. In an attempt to introduce a sales system, a predictable, repeatable machine that drives new business in good times and bad, sales leaders often fumble the ball before they make the handoff. Sales leaders either overwhelm their teams with way too much specificity or assume the reps know everything and offer no guidance. The first type is the sales leader as quarterback in the huddle barking, Brown right, A right, flanker short post, 2 jet, dino, X shake, Y shallow, cross on 4. The sales offense is so complex that the quarterback must detail what each person must do on the play. It's micromanagement driven by needless complexity. To a salesperson, this micromanagement arrives in the form of constant yelping about detailed call logs, expense reports, mileage calculations, and the expectation that everything the customer or prospect said or thought, or might say or think in the future, is cataloged for posterity in the customer relationship management software. But before we go blaming modern technology for unnecessary complexity in selling, take a quick gander at Figure 1, Norval Hawkins' 4-page sales chart from the year 1920. It is named The Knowledge of Goods. That complexity, my friend, is more than a century old. The gravitational pull towards sales complexity is not new. Faced with such a convoluted sales playbook, it's no wonder salespeople rely on primal instincts like greed, fear, and lust for survival. They place their personal self-interest first. When in doubt, take care of number 1, the mind advises. Okay then, complexity isn't ideal. What about the opposite of that? What if you ran an offense built on pure autonomy? The quarterback would be in the huddle, wide-eyed, breathing heavily, taking one last gulp before stammering, everyone just get open. Get open. This offensive sales strategy is defined by what it lacks: the absence of any real planning, coordination, or coaching. It's believing sales is more art than science. For many sales pros, their onboarding and sales training consists of little more than, well, your company vehicle is parked out front, keys are in it, here's a gas card, there's your laptop, business cards arrive in 6 weeks, if you're still here, okay? Great, now get out there and get her done. The former is pure complexity. The latter is utter chaos. Either way, the outcome is the same. Confused and distracted salespeople who forget sales is all about helping people, being useful. That's the job. Any salesperson who is useful, helpful, generous, and kind is exactly the salesperson who can be developed in the air raid sales offense. It's easy to teach, easy to learn, and easy to execute. Like Hal Mummy's revolutionary offense, the air raid sales offense isn't a rigid playbook loaded with mandatory plays to run. It's a philosophy with a few common sense principles that provides ample room for customization and personal interpretation based on your unique culture, customers, and market conditions. After all, you know your customers better than anyone. The air raid sales offense will provide a mindset and a framework that makes it easier for your customers to buy and for your prospects to switch their allegiance to you. Like its football half-sibling, the air raid sales offense is built on fearlessness, optimism, simplicity, and fun. Yes, fun. The offense taps into a different aspect of human nature, namely, the way it makes people feel when they are useful, helpful, generous, and kind. The best salespeople make buying easy and fun. These salespeople are like athletes at the top of their sport. They're rare, but they exist all over the world. You've surely bought from these types of sales pros in the past, at least once anyway, and you enjoyed it because it didn't feel like they were selling you on anything. As sales evangelist Jeffrey Gitomer preaches, people hate to be sold, but they love to buy. Imagine the impact you could make if you could coach your salespeople to sell in a way that made buyers feel good. Imagine your company's potential if your customers felt gratitude for the help they receive from your sales reps. You can with the air raid sales offense. It's composed of 3 parts. Each part has 2 components. Part 1, simplify your playbook. Sales leadership begins here, eliminating confusion and illuminating the path forward for your sales team. The two tools are the Sales Strategy Statement, or the S3, and the Sales Stack, a tool that will distill your sales operating system to a single page. Part 2, Technique over Scheme. Here you'll move from the strategic to the tactical, ensuring your sales team can introduce themselves intelligently and tackle the predictable, often instinctual objections buyers have. Part 3, Precision and Timing. Armed with strategic intent and tactical readiness to engage with prospects and customers, you'll learn about the Jerome Maguire paradox and how to convert your wildest sales pipe dreams into reality with your sales pipeline. By focusing on fewer things, the 6 components noted here, your coaching will be more precise. Your sales reps will get more reps. They'll improve faster, and you'll develop more trust. With less complexity and more practice, your salespeople will be better prepared to read and react, anticipating the defenses put up by annoyed and abused buyers unaccustomed to sellers who deliver value first. With the Air Raid sales offense, you can compete differently. Think differently. Think like Hal Mummy even. And like Hal, you'll face detractors at every step of the way. Why? Human beings react to innovation in a predictable, reliable pattern. First, we ignore it, then we ridicule it, then we fear it, and finally, we copy it. Only when we adopt innovation does change happen. Leaders like Hal Mummy exploited that change. He was fearless when it came to going first, doing something different. In football, as in sales, differentiation is the source of durable competitive advantage, often for years and even for decades. Let Hal, imperfect as he was, be your guide. Let's do something simple yet revolutionary. Make the game we're all playing fun again. Let's get started. So, my friends, that's it. I hope you find it worth your time and attention. Again, I want to make this super clear. Part of what we need to do as leaders is ask for what we want and make it super obvious what steps you want people to take. And my friend, what I want you to do, very much so, I want you to go to airraidSalesOffense.com, buy the audiobook, buy the book, buy 5, buy them for your friends, buy 1,000, do what you gotta do. All right, I think we're done here. You, my friend, you're owed nothing. Deliver value first. Make it a great one.